Hey folks, Movement Monday here with your host Ray Reyes and Hampton McCullough. Hampton, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Movement Monday here for Monday, July 29th, 2024. If you guys haven't figured out my calendars over there, that's why I always look in, in that direction to see what date it is. Um, but yeah, getting into this. If you're new here, we do this every Monday to talk about movement and supplementation, as well as vitamins and weight management, just how they all fit together. And so Hampton and I um, have come from fitness backgrounds in different areas. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to dive into a little bit more the personal side of Hampton and who she is and how she got to be where she is in her fitness journey. It's a pretty interesting story because for those of you that haven't heard about this before, but I've known Hampton since she was very young. I've worked with her dad for many years, and so I kind of got to watch her grow up, and just her story is pretty amazing. So it's worthy of sharing. So ready to dive in, Hampton?
I'm ready.
Good deal. Just I have a couple questions that I'll go off of to lead. Let's start with how early you started and what drove you to get started so early. What
In my
age
entire life,
in
like
your
my whole
entire life?
journey.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I started playing Pee Wee soccer when I was, I think, 3,
yeah,
and it was in a gym on carpet, like an old
yeah,
church gym or wherever. And I apparently fell in love with it because I played all the way into college.
yeah.
So, um, but it all started there. And then growing up, I played that obviously every year. And then I played travel softball, fast pitch on a team when I was 12U. So I played soccer all the way up to 12U, and then I started playing soccer and fast pitch together for multiple years, and that was really hard because there were times where I had weekends where I'd be changing in the car, going from one tournament to another, um, and then I played that till 14U, and then came to the point where I had to decide a sport that I wanted to play and take really to the next level. Even though they're both travel teams, I wanted to play a college sport. I wanted to be a college athlete my whole life.
Mhm.
So come 14U, it all became too much for pretty much everyone because there was, at this point, you're getting more into, well, you're going into high school, so that already steps up the game. And then um, come junior year, you were going to have scouts looking at you. So you had to really focus and put all your energy into one sport. So I chose soccer. And then I love fast pitch though. So it was tough. But I ended up going to, am I supposed to be dragging this on all the way to college?
No, you're good. Keep
Okay.
going. Yeah.
I went to college and I played soccer in college. And then my second year, I was gonna, I actually verbally committed to play softball or fast pitch and college soccer too. And I decided come springtime, I was like, I'm gonna take back my verbal commitment because I have been through that. I know what that's like already, and it wasn't even at the college level. So
Mhm.
um, I decided that I wanted to also have time for me and friends, and you know, if I didn't give the team my all, then why go at all? So that's how I felt.
Yeah, no, and that's, I mean, I think what happens there is you just kind of highlighted a progression of what happens where falling in love, developing a passion, realizing that there's other things that you're passionate about as well, but also getting back to your passion and then getting to a point where then it's a responsibility, and
Mhm.
it's a responsibility to not only to yourself, to your family life, to what level of commitment you want to have, and you know, how much can you give and at what level can you give, because you know that's a hard thing for a lot of people to encompass in their mind and help understand, you know, where they're coming from and where they're going and what this means for the future. And you know, I recently have been doing some reflecting myself about where am I at, what feeds my energy, what makes me feel good about what I'm doing, it, where am I sharing, why am I sharing, and where the passion is. And so
Right.
it's kind of funny how sports and it can teach you all that, you know, and you know, it's no secret that I have, my son involved in a lot of sports because
Mhm.
of those different life lessons that you learn in sports. And so, and same goes with, movement, dedication, just the resilience that you build, just off of being, starting to play with a passion at 3 and then working your way through and having to progressively get bigger. It's very much like that with any type of movement that you do. You're going to start walking, you'll walk slow, you go a little bit faster in your walk. And then, maybe you work your way up to jogging, then you work your way up to running, and then you start getting yourself in races, and you're like, well, how did I get here? And that's how,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
let's go a little bit into your inspiration and, driving forces throughout that. I know that you had one very special coach for at least through the first few years of your sports career, and in your dad. And his level of passion is pretty high too. He's very active, very, he is very involved and very much into sharing. And so I've always admired the relationship that you and him have, and both friendship wise, but also coach wise, and then just how proud he is of all of his kids, really. But also, I got to see more of you growing up than I did the older kids, just because in conversations we've had. So talk a little bit about your relationship, not only with your dad as a coach, but also just other coaches, and then wherever that takes you.
Okay, well, my mom's gonna laugh watching this because it's like a running joke in our family, but my dad being my coach was like the best thing ever, but also hard because like I've I don't know if I know someone that loves being the coach's kid, like out of like T-ball and like, 10U and under, right? So my dad was the best coach ever, of course, but there was a point where I was taking like soccer very seriously and just having an outside point of view and just having my dad watch rather than my dad being the coach, like that sounds so selfish that I wanted him all to myself, but like truly, it's like so it's it's awesome when like you have parents that just go to every game. I don't like my dad missed like one game, I think my entire career. And it was and I remember the exact game actually. I mean, there's probably a couple, but like literally less than 5, okay? So, but there's a point where you really just want your dad in the stands or your parents in the stands and your coach to have to go to, right? So, I'm gonna highlight a coach that I had that wasn't my dad. So it took me a second. I'm like, who are you talking about? I had a coach and his name was Rusty. And I was like, I can't even remember, maybe 14, fourteen's age, 14, 15 age. And I was I was coming to a new club and because clubs emerged at that point. So it was already kind of like a unknown feel out. I was trying out for a new club. I had no idea who anyone was except the people who were going over from the other club. And I had a specific team I wanted to make and I made the other team, which ended up being the biggest blessing in disguise. Like it changed the whole game for me, right? So, and now I go back to looking at that scenario into like different aspects of my life at this age, right? So that's just one thing it did for me because at that point, like it was either, I was 14 years old. It was either I was really mad about something or really happy because like obviously I didn't get my way. But looking back at it now, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm still in contact with that coach. And that coach taught me so much, like about soccer, about life, like both ends of the spectrum, right? So I learned a great amount. I met the best people who I still talk to today, and just changed my life. But it's crazy because I was so upset in the moment. Like you can ask my mom. I'm sure she knows the exact day time of that moment that I found out that I wasn't on the team.
Yeah.
And it was
Well,
the best thing that ever happened to me.
life happens like that sometimes, and that's it's a reflection, and that teaches you how to deal with disappointment for one, and two,
Mhm.
you got to make the best of a situation. Sometimes the situation is comes about for a reason, and you don't realize the reason until later. So
Yep.
you touched on a
Totally.
couple of things there too that made me, triggered other thoughts. One, um, I being coach dad, um, and having watched other coach dads work through working with their kid, I'm a strong believer that there comes a point where you shouldn't coach your kid anymore.
Mhm.
And so I completely understand that statement because, for one, I have seen, I have, my cousin who is I'm pretty close to, had coached his sons all the way through, and he spent so much time coaching that just this last year, his oldest is 20. He got to sit and watch his younger, or watch some sports from the sidelines. I don't remember what it was, but I remember him watching from the sidelines, and he's like, do you know how long it's been since I've sat and watched from the sideline? Or from the
Mhm.
stands, not even the sideline, the stands. And so it's a big difference. It's a big, it allows, but also your coaching mindset is still there, and it allows you to parent
Mhm.
differently, but also with a coaching style too. But it allows you to be a little bit more in a level mind frame. And so I think that there's probably a bittersweetness on the other side of it for the parents as well when it comes
Mhm.
to, okay, and then you do get to a point where it's all sports, and then you lose that relationship of other life. And so I I am for finding it a separation at probably
Mhm.
about 14 is when it about makes
Right.
sense, because then hormones start coming into play, attitude starts getting in there, that
Mhm.
back talks, so it has to be
Mhm.
cut to a minimum. Then so if you're having an
I just
argument on the way to the field, and then you get there and you got to listen to your daddy yell at you for another hour because he's coaching you. But
Mhm.
when I say yell,
I just
it's
think
coach you, but like,
there's so much growth. Like, it's nice to
yeah.
have other perspectives and, um, I mean,
Hmm.
like, if my dad coached me through and through, like, I would have been like, "Yeah, you told me this, like, 3 years ago. Tell me something new," like, because they, like, just you are set in your ways with a coach, like, your coaching mindset and, so it's
Yeah.
really nice to have, like, a different, like, set of eyes on, like, things that you can do and, different perspectives. But you
Yeah.
also triggered something back to me because it like, the car drive home sometimes, we're like I'm sure you're starting to have them with Cruise, but, like, there was a point where, you leave the game, you have the conversation, and the drive home is sometimes very awkward because, like, you're like, "I
Hmm.
don't wanna talk about
Yeah.
this right now," right? So, but when your parents are the coach or your whatever relative, someone you're related to, it's not like and this also sounds selfish, but it's not meaning to be. It's not what you can do to fix. It's like everything that could have gone differently that everyone did as a team put onto your shoulders about it, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't I can't help that. So it was really nice to not have a parent as a coach, honestly. And I know people
Yeah.
that who through and through like your cousin had, and I could not imagine that because it's nice to just have people rooting from you from the bleachers.
Yeah. Well, and so my nephew, well, my cousin's son, he's my nephew. That's how I
Yeah.
refer to him. He gave me some advice about coaching my son, and he said, it's the worst thing ever when you had a terrible game, and then you get in the car, and your parent tells you more about the terrible game. He
Mhm.
goes, so if
It's
it's a
like
terrible
slow
game, let it be a
silent
terrible game
cry.
on the field, and let the car ride home be peaceful. If it's a great
Mhm,
game, then it's fine to talk about it and the car ride home, but also respect that difference, because it'll help, it'll save resentment, and the
mhm,
eye rolls. Even though the eye rolls aren't fully there, you can hear an eye roll sometimes, and
mhm.
so I try very hard to hold that mindset when we leave a game, and just you know, I I
Mhm.
typically, if there's something that didn't go wrong, I'll ask, how do you think you did? And typically the answer is more beating up on himself than not. And so I try to correct that and understand, we all have bad days. So
Well,
um
I think at that point, it's like the kid already knows, like, at a certain age, when you have a really good game or a really bad game, like, Cruz is at,
mhm,
like, prime age, right? So, you're having a really bad game. The kid already knows that, but the parent is just like talking about it,
Yeah.
not knowing
Yeah.
like what their mind's thinking. So it's like adding on to the kid, like just piling up. And
Yeah.
I think my dad and I like finally came to an agreement of like, we, I can't remember if we did like, okay, so say full car ride home, it was like
Hmm.
either we're talking about something else or it's silent. Like it wasn't about the game. You got to give me some time to like cool off and like
Yeah.
reflect in your mind by yourself about the game you already know that was terrible, right?
Definitely.
Without being, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so I guess my last thing that I want to ask you is, your daughter's getting to be about the age where you started playing soccer, and she's very interested. It's clear. I've seen pictures of her
Mhm.
warming up with you and just kicking a ball already. Is she almost 3, or is she
She
3
is
already?
3, but
That's what I thought.
there's no programs here until 4.
Okay,
So
and
maybe
that's
I
when
was
Cruz started was 4. Yeah,
okay.
and
So
so and
4,
and so tell
yes.
me what that looks like for you in what you see, as a parent that started at 3, working your way through it with a parent. I'm just I I it's a whole different mindset and different
Well,
perception.
I coached at Mount Rainier, so
Yeah,
I know what that's like, and I was gonna add that earlier along with my dad. So after it was cool to be able to coach after, he went through everything with me growing up, right? So, but to go back to Pearson, I I don't want to coach her, honestly. Like maybe 1 year just to say I did it to be her coach because I think she would think that's the coolest thing ever, right? But in Pee Wee only, I would never go like comp or even like eights. Okay, so I think it'd be the coolest thing ever to be able to hand everyone like a little medal at the end and have Pearson call me coach and stuff. But I would rather just watch her thrive. I don't know.
yeah,
I think it's a total different scene on the other side. I but she's
yeah.
great.
Well, I'm curious to see how that plays out, because you know
Me
I
too.
you're a very passionate person, and so I don't
Yeah,
necessarily know that you'll be able to hold that mindset throughout even her younger years.
I know.
And
But
that's,
hopefully she
I
has
I try
that.
hard. Yeah, I try hard to be a parent when I'm not coaching, and it's challenging at times. But even so, this last season I almost didn't coach baseball, and I've coached Cruz every season of baseball that he's played. And he's like, "Well, what do you mean you're not coaching?" And I'm like, I don't know that they need me. I don't know that I'm actually kind of stretched tight. If they need me, I'll make the time, but I'm also not going to force my way into it. And I ended up coaching, but he was actually disappointed that I wasn't coaching. So he still enjoys me being in the dugout with him. And so I kind of dig that. But, like your dad, I am at every one of his events that I can possibly be at. And so I dig it. I love watching his passion, his energy. And then, he guest played on the team this weekend, and, so
I saw
he's
his
now playing.
videos.
Yeah, and he's just, I mean, I just got so many different reasons to be proud of his mindset, his effort, his style of play, his skill level. He's just coming right along, and he just makes it pretty easy to sit and watch when it's playing soccer. For one, I didn't play soccer. I didn't know soccer until he got into it, and
Mhm.
um, but it is a joy, and so yeah. But
Okay,
I'm digging watching from the sidelines for that, but I also get the offset of coaching him in baseball. So it's I'm
yeah,
about at the level where I think I'm going to tap out of being able to provide any worthy contribution. But we'll
yeah.
see. I've got at least another year or two, I think, to where I'll continue to try coaching. So
Well, I mean, all sports are fun to watch, but especially like at his age, he's just gonna start getting
mhm.
more and more competitive. So I feel like that's even
Yeah,
more fun to watch from the
yeah,
outside. I wanted to touch base on something else about my dad being my coach and my dad. Um, I will say, even though he wasn't my coach for like all that long, doesn't mean I didn't hear him. trying to coach me
Yeah.
from the bleachers. I just wanted to
Yeah.
add that because I always heard my dad. I mean, you know my
Hmm.
dad, he's not a
Hmm.
quiet person. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
so yes, he coached me
And
and through all of it.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, I didn't participate in any team sports when I was younger. It just wasn't in the cards for me. It just didn't work out for me. And we'll talk about more about that in next week's episode. So,
Okay.
but um, but I always imagine that there's a certain sound of your parents' voice that you hear that comes through all the other noise that is on the field. And so my wish is always that he hears my voice and hears his coach's voice and not any of the negative voices. And so
Mhm.
but that's always just a wish, a hope, and just that's all I can go with is hoping that he takes the positive and understands that the negative is going to come, but you have to know how to silence that noise
Mhm.
and just do your best. And if you make a mistake, correct it and move forward.
Totally.
So yeah. All right. Any final words before we wrap up?
If you're in the valley, the Matanuska Valley in Alaska, I was told to add our tasting tour to our episode today. So if you're near Wasilla on Wednesday, that's not true. Thursday, we're having a meeting at the Menard Center. If you're in the area, we would love to have you there at 6 p.m.
Good deal. It's gonna be great.
It is.
Good deal. Alrighty. Well, we'll take that to wrap up. We went a little bit long today, but I expected that we would have an in-depth conversation, so it's good. It's okay. We're Ray and Hampton again. I'm your host for Movement Monday. We do this every Monday to talk about movement, vitamin supplementation. Today, we just wanted to get a little bit more of a background on us. Next episode, we will go in a little bit to a background on me, so that we can cover both sides here. If you are watching this for the first time, we have plenty of episodes, cover a lot of topics. And if there's a topic we haven't discussed yet and you'd like to hear, please reach out. Let us know. We'd love some influence. If you want to join us, we'd love to have you as a guest as well. If movement and or vitamins and supplementation are a passion of yours and you'd like to have a conversation about any of that, again, reach out. Let us know. We'd love to have you. Other than that, we'll remind you to drink your water, get your movement in, take your vitamins, get it done. Talk to you later.
See ya.